All right. Well, I guess we can get started now. Thank you all for being here today. We're excited to have you all here for Gaucho Academy, navigating your early career. It's my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Samantha Putnam, our executive director at UCSB Alumni Affairs. Samantha will be guiding us through the conversation, so take it away, Samantha.
Thank you, Tristan. Thank you so much, Tristan, for your planning on this event. Much appreciated. And I want to acknowledge and thank Liz and Leilani from the Alumni Affairs team for also helping to organize this event. As Tristan said, I'm the executive director for the Alumni Association. And on behalf of UC Santa Barbara, I want to thank you for joining us for this webinar today. We will be recording the session and we will share the recording via email with those that have registered and also on our YouTube channel following the event. This webinar, the Career Guidance for Young Alumni, is part of our Gaucho Academy series. Should you find that you have suggestions for topics that you would love to see as part of this webinar series, please do let us know. You can email the general email address or follow up with Tristan. Excuse me. But without further ado, because we've got a lot of questions to get through, I'm excited to be joined today by three inspiring UC Santa Barbara alumni. So let me introduce Adam Steinharter, who is a talent leader at Anthropic. He brings over 20 years of recruiting experience at both accredited tech companies and startups. He now resides in San Mateo, California, and has decades of proven success in building successful companies and effective teams. And with his people first approach to hiring and strategic leadership, he has been incredibly successful in the talent recruitment field. Adam graduated UC Santa Barbara with a BA in communications and a minor in history. Next, I'd like to introduce Lariza Johnson. She is a member of our Alumni Board of Directors. She is Regional Operations Director at UCLA Health. Lariza graduated from UCSB with a BA in Economics and Accounting and was a transfer student, and she received her Master's in Public Administration from Cal State Northridge. Having been with the UCLA Health team for over 20 years, Lariza is skilled in clinical operations, health economics, and financial analysis. And finally, I'm happy to introduce Adrian Elegado, who is also a member of our Alumni Board of Directors. Adrian is the West Region Senior Vice President at Embark. With an innate desire to help others, Adrian has found his niche in advising financial executives on their strategic initiatives. He earned a BA in economics from UCSB and an MBA from Trident University International, and Adrian's career has spanned multiple companies and skills. So thank you so much to our three guests for being with us. Throughout this conversation, we'll have the opportunity for you to ask your questions in the question field. So do take a note of that area. You can drop your question in and we'll be moderating there. And we'll go through and at the end, we'll spend a few minutes answering those questions if we don't answer them as we come along. So first of all, I've done sort of bio introductions for each of you, but I'd like to spend a minute with each of you, just introducing your career a little bit, describe your current role and the steps you took to get there. And let's start with sort of biggest lesson you learned first years out of postgrad. We'll jump straight in. So I will kick that off to Adrian.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? It is a pleasure to, well, see everyone's name. I could only see the panelist's face, but yes, happy Thursday. Thank you so much, Samantha and Tristan, for putting this on. Very grateful to be on today. But yeah, I mean, my career, I mean, post Santa Barbara, I started my career off at Deloitte, did 3 years in their audit practice before switching over to Deloitte Consulting. Before I realized I'm like, you know what? Let's pivot again to a more boutique firm. So I moved over to a smaller finance and accounting shop where I spent about 8 years there before moving over to my current company, Embark, where essentially I'm doing the exact same thing, but more building, trailblazing, a bit more entrepreneurial uh, in a type of way. So yeah, I'm excited to be here today and answer any questions and help you guys out. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. And now I'll kick over to Larissa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lariza Johnson, the Ops Director for UCLA Health's Central Coast Ambulatory Clinic. So those are your outpatient clinics, primary care, specialty care. My journey started early. I was already working in healthcare before I went to UCSB as a transfer student. So that experience gave me a head start into operations and patient care, which technically became the foundation of my career and where my choices came from. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in the first years is that persistence and adaptability matter. So for me, it's not always having a perfect plan, especially as a transfer student, I learned that firsthand. But it's for me, it's about showing up consistently and leaning into the opportunities when they come.
Thank you. And Adam?
Yeah, thanks for having me. After school, I actually got into marketing for about 4 years at Charles Schwab, and quickly learned how I work, and that I needed to see kind of a beginning, middle, and end, and got into recruiting, which is a little bit like sales, but not really sales. It's a little more people focused, and spent 5 years in an agency. And that evolved into wanting to build companies. And so spent my time over the last 20 years at number of startups, companies you've probably heard of, like SurveyMonkey, Google, and now at Anthropic. And when I start thinking about some of the biggest lessons that I learned early in my career is really kind of lean into your strengths. I think a lot of times we spend too much time trying to shore up our weaknesses, but when you're just learning, lean into what you know and bring those skills to the workforce. Good examples. How do you learn? Lean into that so that you can ramp up and feel confident. I think another one is just don't be afraid to fail. That's how you're going to learn. You can't, I always like to say, you can't celebrate a win if you don't want to know what it's like to lose. And so put yourself out there, learn how to fail forward and grow from those.
Thank you. Um, I agree with what you said, Larissa. I think, consistency is so important. You can set yourself so far ahead of others just by being where you say you're going to be, showing up on time, being reliable is such a huge value to any organization. So we're going to move into career progression. As we know, experience is crucial at the early stages of a career. The degree is really, really important to get you the step in the door, but getting that early stage career experience is critical. How did you each approach your full-time role out of college, and what skill helped you out the most? And what's the one skill that perhaps you still consistently use today to stay on top of changes in your specific field?
I'm happy to jump in on this one. Actually, Larissa, you look like you're ready
It's
to
okay. Go
go.
ahead. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, so early on, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I did realize that, when you're in school, and I was a communications major, a lot of what you're learning is going to be theory. And so it's up to you to kind of figure out how to apply that theory in the real world. And a lot of what I focused on was that networking aspect. Who can I meet? How can I have these conversations? You're going to hear it's not what you know, but who you know. And so making sure that I was having conversations, meeting people in a range of different industries, um, and then really kind of cultivating those relationships. For me, I still go to conferences. I go to meetups. I try to have these conversations. The world is very small, and you'll kind of see this as you continue to navigate. And so, having those conversations, not being afraid to put yourself out there was a big piece for me.
Yeah, and like what Adam said, it's like that curiosity, right? So my first full-time role was an extension of what I've already been doing before college, as I mentioned, being in healthcare. But after college, I approached it further with curiosity and a strong work ethic. So that the skill that helped me stand out was being dependable and taking initiative, even with the small things. And then to stay current, I lean into professional development. So most places, most organizations have them. And so I try to look for them in my organization, and then also reading industry updates. But the most that I've seen to actually be current in my role is that I listen to what's happening on the ground and talking with people. Because in reality, that's often where you hear the real story, the real problem, and the real solutions that can be used for those problems.
So I agree with both of you guys. I mean, I think networking, right, and staying compelling and relevant to your network is super important. And just to probably add on to what both you guys were saying, when you first graduate, I think UC Santa Barbara does such an amazing job teaching the foundation, the theories, the framework of the real world. But what makes you so successful, especially when you first start out, are your intangibles. And I think both Adam and Lariza mentioned this, but your intangibles, the chemistry, communication, the humility, flexibility, the curiosity, the genuine, authentic self that you bring to the table every day, that's what's going to carry you, right? It's the problem solving skills. It's everything intangible that we've learned through our lives that you're going to bring to the workforce. That's what's going to make you successful. Like the technical stuff that we learn in college, absolutely. Like that's going to get you the degree, get you through the front door. But what makes you stand out, your network, and then all the intangible stuff, oh, it's easy.
Thank you. So our next question is something I see all the time. One of my favorite things about my job is I get to meet so many gauchos, and the one common thing I always talk about is it seems like very few people's career path has been just like linear, right? Like definitely we have an incredible alumni base of people who are sort of like, I'm going to try this, or I thought I was going to do this, and I'm going to be brave, and then I'm going to try this, and and it's involving, right? But sometimes it takes bravery, and being brave can also lead to a lot of self-doubt sometimes. Can you share something that didn't necessarily go as planned for you in your early career and how you bounced back and you learned from it? Not everyone comes out of college with a clear plan. Not every people may have a plan and they suddenly, take a left turn. What was your experience with uncertainty post graduation? And yeah, how did you bounce back? How did you learn? And how did you regain momentum to find where you're at now?
Let me, if I could take this one. I had a mentor who told me that most of the time people think of career as a ladder. You climb like one after the other. But she told me that it's more likely like a jungle gym where you might have to go backwards and spring yourself so you can move forward. And I didn't realize what it meant until there was a promotion that I was sure that I would get, but it didn't happen. It was disappointing to say the least. But it gave me a chance to reflect and remember that, oh, it's a jungle gym. Sometimes I have to move backwards so I could improve myself and then come back stronger. I focused on that time building skills and I also like seek feedback, which eventually opened bigger doors for me. And as you mentioned for uncertainty, absolutely. There are times when I'm not sure what the next step should be. So I focused on asking myself, where can I add value? What problems can energize me? And where can the solutions be found? Because sometimes it's not with us. So that helped me find clarity and also regain momentum.
Thank you. I think we bonded over this one time, Larissa. That was the same for me. It was a job that I once didn't get and was so disappointed that was actually one of the most valuable experiences ever because I really listened to the feedback and took direction from that. So, Adrian or Adam, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I could add to this. So it's interesting. Like I would say, get comfortable being uncomfortable probably like stood out and resonated with me through my career, right? Because that's where the real growth happens. Your biggest tests in your career in life will be your biggest testimonies. And I think, going through the big four, graduating with a accounting degree, and it's like, okay, I finally made it. I'm in the big four. And then you go through your first busy season and you're working 14, 15 hours a day and it's not what you expected at all. I mean, they kind of warn you about this, but it's not what it's like, right? So being able to pivot and realize, okay, what's giving me energy? What's draining energy? Okay, I mean, I love seeing businesses and how they operate at a micro level, but what about on a macro level, right? And that was my pivot to Deloitte Consulting, where I was able to really see how organizations ran from a macro lens. And then another pivot came where, a recruiter reached out, was like, hey, like you need to talk to this boutique firm, just have a conversation, right? So I did, and one thing led to another, and then I ended up joining them. So really, like you never know, kind of to Larissa's jungle gym, you never know where, your career is going to take you, but staying true to yourself and your network, it's going to take you for a wild ride, but it's all part of the journey, right? It's all part of the journey. And yeah, very grateful to be where I'm at today.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I look at and kind of dealing with doubt is it actually wasn't a bad situation. It was a situation. I was working at Alphabet and I was in a room, it's a robotics company, and I was in a room with some of the smartest people I'd ever met. These are PhDs. These are people who are incorporating AI into robots and making them like learn how to clean tables and sort garbage, which is it's crazy. And they were asking me for information, and imposter syndrome can be real, right? You show up and you're like, well, how am I going to be smarter than those folks? And I think it was that moment where I realized that I'm in the room for a reason. I bring a lens that nobody else in that room brings, and the people that I'm with are asking me for my input, and that is it was a very big moment for me because I realized, I do have a lot to offer. I'm here for a reason. I bring a knowledge that others don't have, and there's a reason why I was hired into this position. And so I think when it comes down to it is, these are people. They wake up the same as you do. They, just work on different things. And so trust your instincts, trust your experience, and remember that you are in that room to bring your viewpoints.
Thank you. I'm going to jump into some individual questions now so we can drum down a little bit into each of your personal experiences. Adrian, I'm going to start with you. You were working for Deloitte, one of the, the big four, big four, five, which, for many people, like that's the dream, right? You've landed with one of these big organizations. But what was it, you said you got reached out to by a recruiter, but what was it in that moment that said, yeah, this is time for change, and I'm going to take maybe a non-traditional route, or I'm going to take a route, maybe a risk that others might, maybe your parents are like, why would you leave Deloitte? What was it that kind of had you make that decision?
That is a great question. So it's quite funny, and in complete transparency, I'll be honest with you guys. So when I was reached out to the recruiter, um, while I was deployed at Twitter, I was traveling back and forth, living my best life, racking up the miles, the points. I had amazing friends out at that company, and a recruiter reached out, was like, Adrian, like just have a conversation. It doesn't hurt to talk to another company. It doesn't hurt to see what your value is in the marketplace. It doesn't hurt to just see, what the other opportunities. If anything, just say no. Use it as a measuring stick. And again, I was happy where I was at, and I remember sitting down with the managing director at the time, and something clicked from a people's perspective. And it's so cliche to say that, like every time you go through these interviews in life or interviews with different companies, the main question you ask is like, oh, why your company? Why your company? Everyone always says, oh, it's because the people. And I thought that was the biggest, like, bogus answer until I joined the workforce. And it truly is the people that you work with and the network that you grow and maintain and the friends that you make. So something clicked there. So I took a leap of faith and I joined this boutique firm. And oh my God, goodness, I'm so glad I joined because I was able to bring all those, the intangible skill set with my technical background over to this boutique firm, and I was able to grow the firm across the region. So it was definitely because the people and the network that they provided. And again, I wasn't looking, this just came to be, right? So it's really staying agile and flexible to your career and, you know, it doesn't hurt to check. And Adam, you'd probably agree. I mean, you being a recruiter, like, hey, just have a conversation, right? Just if anything, grow your network. In a worst case scenario, say no. So
If I can jump on that, yeah, yeah, right. There's not a commitment. You can always say no, but I think the big thing that you call out is the people, right? When you think about your work, a lot of folks are focused on I got to get to that company, I got to get to that company. But especially early career, you want to be around people that can lift you up, that you can learn from, that you can grow from, and that environment is going to be, transformational for you. I always tell early career folks, you're going to make a lot of money in your career, right? But you're not going to be in that situation where you can learn and get into that right environment where you can grow your career and start from that right step. So that's whether early career or mid career, it does come down to the people because you're spending upwards of 8, sometimes 10, sometimes more hours a day with these folks, and you want to make sure that you can tolerate them and learn from them, right?
yeah.
Thank you. I have a question for Lariza that I think is pretty timely in today's climate, shall we say. The job market is looking a little challenging, and the education environment is looking a little challenging as well. But for you, you opted to go and do your MPA. Why did you make that decision? What informed that decision, especially for you when you had a good, solid work background prior to doing your degree, right? So you weren't necessarily jumping in for that experience. So what made you go after the MPA and decide to do that?
So funny. My last paper in the MPA program was I proposed to my grad school professors like, can I write like how to run healthcare like a business? He laughed at me. He says, okay, well, start your paper, do your research, and then get back to me. As I was writing my paper, and suddenly there was a aha moment, and I'm like, oh, you can't run healthcare like a business. And so the title of my paper was The Paradox of Running Healthcare Like a Business. So basically, why I went for an MPA is because my background in undergrad and in operations at work is mostly very technical. And what is lacking and missing for me is I wanted to understand the bigger picture, how systems, policies, funding, how it influences healthcare delivery. So the MPA gave me tools to think more strategically, to take on leadership roles where those changes happens. Because yes, you'll have the technical skills, but understanding the navigation of a nonprofit or an organization this magnitude, you need to understand the system. So,
Thank you. And then Adam, your other question for you, with so much uncertainty in the job market, especially, in the tech industry and even with competition from AI, what can candidates do to have their, from your experience, what can candidates do to have their applications stand out when, especially, when you're feeling like you need to send out hundreds and hundreds of applications and it takes so much time to tailor each one. What advice would you give for those applications?
I think a lot of it is really just start to show, what is it you're passionate about? The job search, and I recently went through it. It is daunting. I honestly I looked for about a year. I was just kind of like looking around and browsing, and I think ultimately you want to make sure that you stand out with your skills, that you're passionate about the companies that you're talking to. I think a lot of companies want to hear that you want their job, not just a job. And so, make sure that you're focused on the right roles and what's going to make sense and what's going to make you happy. And yeah, it's a tough market right now. Continue to network, have those conversations, see what doors open. And then, again, just show your passion. What do you bring? Who's the person that they have the opportunity to hire, and show them why you're a value add and how you can really kind of level up the team.
Thank you. I'm going to jump back to our group questions now. And I'm going to, two buzzwords, mentorship and networking. And we've definitely heard the word networking a few times on the call so far. Personally, not a passionate lover of it myself. It's a little intimidating. I just read this book. It was a Mel Robbins book, 5 4 3 2 1, and you do stuff right. And apparently, you can do anything if you use that technique. And maybe I'll try it for networking. But it is daunting and it is challenging to know where to start, especially, let's say, if you were a first gen student, right? Or you don't, for multiple reasons, right? Networking and mentorship can be challenging. So, what advice do you find, or what strategy in your networking approach or seeking a mentor have you found most beneficial? And perhaps an answer with a lens through, not everyone has a built-in network through family connection or through, just finding it a little intimidating.
Um, if I can take this one. So I leaned into my organization's professional development program. So we have one. UC is really great with putting these programs. It helped me widen my knowledge and see how everything connects. So there are people that I've met who I'm not just looking for people who are in my own lane, so to speak, right? I'm trying to see what others are doing. But more than just that, seeking mentors, I also sought out sponsors. So I looked out for people who were willing to open doors by letting me contribute to committees or projects that are not even my lane, but I'm interested and they're willing to take, a chance on me. Um, so that actually I was able to like test the waters and then for other people to see my potential. If there is one advice that I could give, because it stuck through me through time, is that find people who are invested in your success, but also show them that you're invested too.
That's great advice. Thank you. Adam, over to you.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of folks that want to help out, right? And the way that I kind of view mentorship is, especially in my line of work, is that there are no classes, there's no degree to be a recruiter. There's no barrier to entry. Anybody can be a recruiter. And really you learn by going through it and having these experiences. And so for me personally, I feel I have an opportunity and almost an obligation to mentor other people who are in the field, or try to give back where I can, because I have had an opportunity to go through it. I have had an opportunity to fail and succeed and grow and learn. And so I often, put myself out there and will try to respond to everyone. That said, I also am always looking for mentors. Where are people that I can learn from? And when I do that, I also try to think of, well, what can I add to their life? How can I make it worth their while to have a conversation with me? So I don't always want to take, but I want to provide as well. How can I give back? How can I make this worth their time? And so really kind of thinking about that. And when it comes to that networking aspect, you never know where you're going to meet folks. It may be, you're out to dinner and you meet somebody through a friend of a friend. I've made those connections before and they become lifelong connections. And so yes, networking is that uncomfortableness that I think Adrian mentioned earlier. You got to be uncomfortable sometimes and think about that long game. But also, how can you continue to give back and how can you open doors for others? Realize that that's a two-way street, and I think you'll find it to be pretty fruitful.
100%. Totally agree. It's interesting. Words that came to my head, genuine, authentic, curious, all these, words, like you have to live them, right? Stay genuine, stay curious, stay authentic, stay true to yourself. And people could read that, right? And, you know, reaching out for help or mentorship is is normal in the course of life where everyone's willing to help, right? If you just ask, right? And in terms of networking or finding that mentor, think about, where you want to go, right, in the future, and then find out who's already there, right? Who's already 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of you, and reach out to them, right? And having right conversations with the right people are so important, right? Again, staying genuine, authentic, and being you and wanting to add value to them Absolutely. But find those people that are already where you think you want to be and ask. And I think that is where, all the magic happens. And, it's not so transactional when you stay true to yourself. It's more transformational, right? And this is a long-term game, right? And, never burn bridges or try not to. And all of it will take care of itself. And I think, Larissa and Adam, hit everything else on the head where, you know, as you grow through your career, you're going to realize, the right circles, the wrong circles, and you just adjust to them, right? You stay agile and, yeah.
Yeah, I think to your point there, Adrian, everyone has an ego, right? And you have someone that's maybe up and coming in the career field that you're in, and they reach out and they want to aspire to be like you. That feels good, right? And people genuinely want to help. And I think to Larisa's point, that's when you'll find a sponsor. If you can make that connection with somebody, really be genuine, be authentic, be eager to learn, then that person will go to bat for you and want to support you. But this little conversation here is making me think I need to do a little semi-commercial break interlude by sharing that, for our alumni on this call, whether you're, advanced in your career or looking to get on the career ladder, wherever you're at, I genuinely mean it when I say I meet so many gauchos, and the thing they say to me is, "How can I help?" Truly, we have a community of alumni that love UCSB, love the experience, and want to help and give back. And this is what Adrian and Adam and Larissa are doing here today. Gaucho Network is a platform, gauchonetwork.com. You can register for that. It's like a LinkedIn just for gauchos. And there are thousands of alumni on the platform who want to help, right? And you can search if you're in Seattle and you're in marketing, right? You can filter in all kinds of way and just reach out to people and connect with them. We want to build and support and sustain a community of people that want to support and help one another. So if you're on the call and you're a recruiter like Adam, go ahead and put that UCSB alum application to the top. But truly, lean into the Gaucho network and community of alumni, and we're always happy to help in our office. So end commercial break. I will get back to our questions, and then we have only a few minutes left for the last question, and then what we'll do is head over to some questions that we have in the chat. So let's talk a little bit about defining success. And I think you did a really good job on kind of teasing on that a little bit, Adrian, with, look at someone who's already doing what you want to do. But I would like to ask each of you, how do you go about finding purpose at work in your early years, and how do you do it now? And does it look different now than it did at the beginning of your career? And I'll start with Larissa.
So for me, the purpose came from not just seeing the impact of my work, but seeing the impact on the teams, on the people. I work in a very team-based setting where you have doctors, nurses, staff, managers, they all work together. It has to work together. So whether it is streamlining a process for us that help patients or supporting each other, I think for me, the purpose always comes back to a question that I ask myself, who benefits from this work? And that value matters to me very much. And that perspective helped me stay motivated and focused on the bigger picture. It's not an easy question in the sense that it's easy to ask yourself, but it's harder when you're trying to be, as Adrian says, authentic. What is it that you're looking for, and who is benefiting your work? You and others, or you and everyone?
Thank you.
I'm gonna jump on that because ultimately mine kind of my passion and my reason for success aligns with Lariza. Early on, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was in marketing. I was working at Schwab. It was, right around the dot-com bust. And I wasn't making a lot of money. And my motivation was, I could get into recruiting and I can make a lot of money. And it was great. And I did. And then that shifted, right? My success went from making X to, I want to build a company. I'm hiring all these people. I want to see what that team is doing. I want to be a part of that company's growth. And even there, it's continued to evolve to, oh, I want to see what that team does and see what they launch. And to now, a lot of my motivation is now mentorship, right? I just mentioned that, kind of getting into a team. I lead a team of about 10 people, and we're building an amazing company, right? And my success, their success ends up being my success. How can I put them in a position to succeed? And how can I bridge those gaps and remove blocks from their path? And so when I see my team reach goals, when I see our clients, our internal clients, build these teams and ship these products, that's now my success. And that's really kind of my evolution of where I've been. And so are people satisfied? Are they happy with what's going on? Yeah, that's me as kind of a servant leader. That's what drives me.
Yeah, and thinking about this, like there's a couple ways to like take this and kind of to add to Adam's point with, your motivation and your why, your passions. I almost think of them as freedoms, right? Like what are your freedoms and rank them, right? Is it time? Is it money? Is it family? Is it spiritual? Is it geography? Is it um political? Whatever it may be, rank those freedoms from high to low, and it's an eye-opening experience because then you see what you're motivated by, what your passion is, or what you're gonna focus your energy on, right? Um, and with that, I'd say there's a difference when you enter the workforce or even in college right now, it's like there's energy management versus time management, right? Everyone always is like, I'm so busy. Oh my gosh, like that's a time thing. But really, this energy management concept is so interesting because when you look at what gives you energy and what drains energy, and then you could position your day around that, right? Like if when you first wake up in the morning, if it gives you energy to answer emails, you're going to do that naturally because that's going to give you energy. But then maybe it's flipped. At the end of the day, you answering emails drains energy. Then why would you do that? Let's move that little habit to the beginning of the day, right? But I think to take it back, like I think it just starts with ranking your freedoms and understanding, what your why, what your passion, what your freedoms are, and then you can navigate the how.
Thank you. That's fantastic advice. So I'm going to jump to some questions that we have from our attendees. So first question from Ian. I'm looking for a product management role in healthcare technology or biochemistry in the Bay Area. If you were me, what would you do to maximize interviews and land offers?
I think a lot of what you're looking for is how can you align yourself with the right opportunities, and how can you really position your transferable skills to get there, right? I don't know if you're in the field or domain already, but how are you showing up? Are you reaching out blindly on LinkedIn to some people inside the organization? Hey, can I get some information from you? Is there a Gaucho there? How do you open that door so that you're not one of thousands of applications? Because we're seeing thousands of applications. And so, what is that difference maker? Is there an alumni that you can just ping and say, hey, would love to get coffee and learn more about the organization? How did you break in? Not necessarily leading with, hey, I'm looking for a job, but how do you kind of create that conversation and build that bridge?
I like that, Adam. I think it's that creativity piece, right? And it's funny. My wife is actually looking for a product marketing gig, a director role, and we are brainstorming about this. She's also a Gaucho alum, and we were like, okay, like what can we do to stand out? Because to Adam's point, like applying on LinkedIn or applying, like how are you going to be the one to stand out, right? So it's maybe doing research on who's the interviewer. Maybe it's reaching out to someone in their marketing group or someone on that team and seeking to understand, being super curious and be like, hey, can I take you out for a coffee? I'd love just to pick your brain on your journey and your role. Or, hey, I'd love to learn more about your organization, right? And just learn as much as you can about the individual and the company. Because it might not even, after talking to the person, it might not even be a good fit, right? Or it may be. And then like you could ask for different ways in. So creativity, I mean, there's other like stalking ways you could get in front of people, but we'll save that for the next call.
I want to share a little bit of tidbit on this. This is something I've learned in the past 2, 3 years. If you are able to attend chambers of commerce events in your cities, that is a big way of getting in front of all these people. And I say this because as part of my job and the impact to our community, I regularly attend chambers of commerce events. And whether it's politics, it's business and not and whatnot, it's there. And so in the last few ones that I've attended with Santa Barbara Chambers of Commerce, there's a lot of tech companies in Santa Barbara, and they're mostly held by gauchos, people who have been at UCSB or tied to UCSB. And so being in that area, in that arena, and I'll give you a real story that has just happened recently. My husband is trying to move from federal government to private, or maybe set up his own firm. And I was in a Chambers of Commerce event and I bumped into this guy. He ended up being a gaucho. They have a firm, and I talked to him briefly. It was a 10-minute, chit chat about what do you do? What do I do? And before you know it, he told me, have your husband call me. I said, okay. And after 3 meetings, 3 lunches, they're set. And so those are the things that are chance encounters. They are what your networking is. It's like going into places where you meet people, not solely just because you're looking for a job, but you're looking to connect. And that authenticity will come out and you get to discover. And maybe, yes, you want to be in healthcare technology, in product management, but maybe there's other things that you don't know about and that they could talk to you about. And you'll never know until you're in front of these people actually talking to them.
I think that's the thing with, we've mentioned a couple of times that recruiters are getting thousands of applications. That reflects a lot of work that you have to do to go through each of those resumes fairly, review them. So those chance encounters where you have a personal connection or you meet someone networking and you think they could be a great fit, it makes your job easier as a recruiter, right? And I think in terms of making life easier, I also think bear in mind that anyone could take their applications, throw them into ChatGTP and say, who do you think we should interview, right? So really look at the job description and tailor your application so you've got the keywords in there. Am I demonstrating that I can do these key skills they're asking for? Because you could be at risk, and whether it's ethical or not, you could be at risk that a human being is not even, initially looking at your resume. I'm going to jump in here. I think, Adam, you're going to be popular here in these Q&As. So, Adam, your story, this is from Aaron. Your story really resonated with me. I'm a UCSB Com History alum 2021 with 4 years in marketing, but I'm considering a career pivot. With bills to pay and starting over is scary. Whether that means school or an internship or a new entry-level role, based on your experience, what advice would you give for navigating this kind of career shift?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna combine Lariza's jungle gym analogy and Adrian's freedoms, right? Really kind of identify what is it that you're looking to do, and do you need to go back to entry level? What are you looking to solve for? Is it going back to I mean, me personally, right now I'm looking at a couple of classes for like program management and how do I up level my skills there? And really kind of like break down what is it that you're trying to solve for? What is it that that gets you going, and what's the right move for you to accomplish that goal? It might not be a full scrap everything and go back full time. It might just be take a night class and work on find a different job. So kind of break that down, go through that exercise and see what resonates for you.
Wonderful. We have a question here from Madison. In the new work landscape with remote work, hybrid work, and in-person job opportunities, do you lean towards one of those work modalities over others when someone is in the early to mid stages of their careers for optimal success? Why or why not?
Easy in person all day. I mean, I guess it depends on like the geography and like the company's like stance on everything. But for me personally, in person is the best. I think that you get that water cooler talk and you build those initial relationships and your network early in your career on site, right? I look back at my audit days and consulting days, and all my friends and colleagues were because we were on site in the weeds, in the trenches, in it together, right? And then traveling together and, going to meals and lunches together. I think that right there is huge. Um, I think the remote aspect takes that away. Or, if companies are full-time remote, see if there's a all hands, see if there's a week where everyone's out on site to actually meet your people because there's so much interpersonal, you know, rapport building that happens in person. So,
Yeah, I echo that. The last 5 years I've worked remote. My previous role was fully remote, and one of the big things that I was looking for was that in-person interaction. And when you're fully remote, that 30-minute meeting that you have, there's a reason for it. And so that small talk, that learning, that kind of personal connection isn't always there. And that's why, I prioritized a role that was going to have an aspect of in person. I think there's value. Really, I think you're going to learn what works for you and how you work. And so kind of explore different things, but I really value the little bit of that in-person interaction.
yeah. And if we weren't in person, you would never have guessed I'm 4'3". I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not 4'3".
I want to say that it also depends on the industry and it depends on the stage of your career. For me, early to mid stage of career, I lean towards more of in person, perhaps hybrid, for optimal success. But as you grow into your career, as you become, like more seasoned, there is this flexibility and broaden access to diverse job opportunities that you're going to look for. But again, it depends on where you are on your career stage and what industry you're looking at.
Thank you. Um, what is the suggested approach for networking events? Do you come in with a structured plan on conversations you plan to have? What kinds of questions? Or do you just sort of let it organically evolve as you meet people?
I just kind of show up. I think if you show up with too much focus on making a connection, you start to scare folks off a little bit. And so just kind of take a soft approach, ask some questions, understand who they are, offer who you are, kind of build that rapport. You're not looking to get all of your answers in that conversation. The networking aspect is a long game. Folks that I met 20 years ago are still opening doors for me today, and I'm opening doors for them. That's what networking it is. It isn't solving just in that meeting right now. It is building a longer term relationship where it might be a few years in and out of touch, but focus on that long term.
Yeah. To Adam's take, flexibility is actually what you need to be, like flexible structure. You're not going into a networking event just to sell yourself. I would suggest, coming in with curiosity. You can start with a simple, hey, what brings you to this event? Or what project are you working on that's exciting right now? And that would open to more conversation. And then if you find that you have similar, interests, that would be great too. But it's not like I know the old adage or the old things like you need to have like what is like a 2 minute spiel about yourself. Yes, that works, but again, then you forget to ask questions because you're so worried about what you're gonna say that you forget that, hey, it's a two-way conversation.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think to add to both of you guys, because I agree on everything, right, that you're saying. Networking events are scary, right? And like let's just level set. Like it doesn't matter where you're at in your career. Networking events are awkward,
I am so glad to
scary.
hear you say that because you're the most confident person. I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, no,
You
it's
do.
it's scary, right? But like let's all level set there and be like, okay, we're all in this scary moment together. However, we're all in the building with the same intention and purpose is to meet people. So when you level set, take a step back and be like, okay, I'm nervous as heck. This is awkward. But same thing with everybody else in this room. They find it awkward. So let's make the most of it, right? Getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and let's just be curious. And to Larissa's point, ask questions, be curious. But yeah, we're all on the same level playing field, and if anything, bring a friend. I think also bringing a friend may help, right? Um, but yeah, it's nerve-wracking.
Thank you. We have three questions that we didn't get to answer, so I'm gonna direct them each at each of you in a quick fire round because I want to be mindful of time. So I'm gonna tell you what they're going to be, and then we'll go back for you to answer. So Larissa, there is a question that I think you would be really great to answer. So what advice do you have for staying motivated and focused while entering the job market? And then Adam, for you, what is the best tool for searching for jobs? LinkedIn, Handshake, Indeed. And then for Adrian, what was the where was it? What was gave you the confidence to know that it was time for change? Sorry, here we go. What signs told you it was time to move on from a role or stay and grow? So we'll start with you, Larissa.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question
Yeah.
for
What do you do? What is your best advice for staying motivated and focused while you're out there searching for a role?
um don't get dismayed. It is so easy to fall into that hole of no one's picking up my resume, I'm not good enough. I think, understanding yourself and understanding your boundaries of like knowing when to step back a little and recalibrate. There's this thing where there if you're asking somebody question and they're not answering the right way, maybe it's not them, it's you, in a sense that you have to recalibrate your question, right? Think about the person. Same thing with you when you're trying to look for a job or you're trying to jump into a new market. Think about what does that market want? What does that industry need right now? Where are my strengths and my interests? Where does it line up? Before you start thinking no one's picking up your resume, no one's calling you back, no one's doing this. Instead, look at it in a different perspective of like, well, how can I be better? Or how maybe my interest and what I'm writing about myself actually doesn't match with what they need. How can it match? And so start asking more questions instead of being dismayed.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, so those sites are fine. There's going to be a lot of traffic on those sites, and you're going to see a lot of stuff there. Built-in is another one that is coming up. I would actually advise to look at site specific. So there's a number of platforms, applicant tracking systems called Greenhouse and Ashby and Kula that are out there. When you search for jobs, search for sites powered by those companies. What you're going to find is a wider range of companies, some startups, some jobs that aren't even posted on those, but you're going to find those relevant jobs across each company's career site. And so that's going to be a good way to find some and uncover some other jobs.
Thank you. If you see a job on LinkedIn, do you think it's better to apply through LinkedIn or go to that company's website, find the job on their website and apply directly?
I don't think it matters. It all goes to the
Okay.
same place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a crapshoot.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And Adrian,
Yes. So wait, what was the question?
what was the sign that told you it was time to pivot?
It, it's very tough because I think it both in life but personal and professional life, like there's seasons, right? There's highs and lows, and the goal of all of that is don't let the highs get too high and don't let the lows get too low. It's you try to stay even keeled to your best ability through whatever season you're going through. And I think with career changes, it's the same thing where, you're gonna know. I think you're gonna know when it's time to move, whether, you've hit this glass ceiling and, you're not growing anymore, or hey, there's an opportunity, it's perfect timing out there, and the opportunity is allowing you to take your next step in your career. You just know, right? And I think the people and your mentors and your family and your friends will help guide you through that. But again, have a small, tight circle that you can confide in and discuss this with, right? Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think you'll just know.
Yeah, trust your gut.
Yeah, trust your gut.
All right. Well, we are coming up to the end of the hour, and I definitely, as I said, want to be mindful of everybody's time. I want to give each of our panelists a moment. If there was one thing when you accepted the opportunity or the service ask to come and join this panel, was there one message or sentiment that you really felt you wanted to get across that you haven't had the chance to? Or is there a catchphrase or something that's come up today that you want to just, this is my lasting message? And if you don't, that's okay. But I just want to give you all the chance to have a sound bite to leave with. I'll start with you, Adrian. No pressure.
Yeah. Uh, well, first of all, thank you so much, Samantha. Thank you, Tristan. Thank you, all you guys, for joining and hearing us talk, because we are far from perfect. We're trying to go through our careers as well. So that's first and foremost. But I think one lasting thing is like, hey, get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Growth happens when things get tough. And I mean, hey, we're all in this life together. We're all growing through our careers together. So, yeah, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'm very, very grateful for all your guys' time today.
Thanks, Adrian. Adam?
Yeah, show up, right? When you're in the role, remember that you're there for a reason and try to get some early wins, establish yourself, get that credibility. It's just going to continue to build. It's going to reinforce your why, and it's going to help you really kind of lay the foundation for your career.
Thank you. Larissa?
I would say invest in yourself. There's a term or a phrase that, success begets success, right? So if you invest in yourself, if you ask questions, what you like, what you want to do, those things come after. Maybe people don't believe in manifestations or whatnot, but when you're investing in yourself, you're also doing things that are going to be good for yourself, for your career, and then everything else will follow. I know, especially for people who are newly grads or are coming out and pivoting in their career, it is so easy to think of the worst, right? And to think of like others first, like what do they need? What can I need? But ask yourself, what do you need? What do you need to get yourself to the next point?
Mhm. Thank you. Such wise advice, and I so appreciate each of you who are busy taking the time out of your days today, not just to do this webinar, but the prep work that went into it. I really appreciate it. For our attendees, I will ask each of our panelists if they're willing to share their LinkedIn profiles, so that if there was a question that you had that you didn't get that chance to answer, you could direct message them on there, and we'll send a follow-up email communication with some of those links, the recording, and other information of ways you can get engaged and connect with us at the Alumni Association. We're here to help you. We're among a community of people that want to help and support one another. So thank you so much. And thank you again to Adrian, Adam, and Larissa, and to our team, Tristan, Leilani, Liz, and Mia. And yeah.